We are going to get started here in a moment, so finish up your conversations, find a seat. And there aren't many more seats open, so as other people come in, there's about, you could add some more chairs. There are some more seats in the back of the room there. All right, well, welcome. My name is Marian Kromkowski, and I'm the president of the League of Women Voters of Leelanau County. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization that encourages informed and active participation in government, works to increase understanding of major public policy issues, and influences public policy through education and advocacy. We never ever support or oppose candidates or political parties. Men and women who are 18 years of age and are U.S. citizens are welcome to join the League. More information on the League can be found at lwvleelanau.org. Dues are $60 a year for individual or $90 for a family membership. Membership applications can be found online and also at the table to my right. Today our topic is redistricting, the problems and the solutions. This is one of 30 community-based redistricting education programs held by the League of Women Voters in Michigan that will be conducted this fall. We are honored to have Judy Karanchev, the president of the League of Women Voters of Michigan, as our presenter on this timely topic. As I just indicated, Judy is our new president of the League of Women Voters of Michigan. Previously, she served 4 years as the League's advocacy vice president and was the president of the Lansing League, as well as holding a variety of local board positions throughout her career in the League. She was also the executive director of the Michigan Women's Commission under Governor Granholm, and during her tenure on that position, she began the Young Women Strong Leaders Conferences, supporting the personal and professional development of young women leaders. She was also previously employed as the executive director of Planned Parenthood Affiliates of Michigan, and was also an aide to the state representative, Mary Brown, where Judy was instrumental in the negotiation and drafting of AIDS legislation, infant mortality initiatives, and the revision of licensing and disciplinary procedures for healthcare professionals. She has a Master's of Public Education from Western Michigan University. Judy was inducted into the Michigan Women's Hall of Fame in 2012. Their press release applauded her help in shaping the discussion of women's issues and concerns in Michigan, noted her leadership positions in women's organizations, commissions, and councils, and complimented her extensive efforts in educating and lobbying legislators, regulators, and policymakers about important issues that not only impact women, but all citizens of Michigan. I'm going to turn over the floor to Judy Karanchev. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to be back up north, especially before the weather gets any colder. I'm going to start passing around handouts. I should. Great. I know this is a long presentation, but hopefully it'll be easy to understand, and we'll take questions at the end. We're ready. As you know, the League is a nonpartisan organization that encourages informed and active participation. We want to increase the understanding of this important issue. We're not here representing any position on this, and this is strictly educational. We are doing this around the state. We have about somewhere between 30 and 50 speeches lined up in the next few months. Right now, the problem, we had to change computers, so bear with me. the problem is politicians are drawing their own voting maps to manipulate elections and keep themselves and their party in power. And there are laws that govern how these maps are drawn. There are laws at the federal level. The U.S. Constitution requires that the seats for the U.S. House of Representatives be apportioned to states according to the population count in the federal census every 10 years. That's in the Constitution. And in a 1964 case with Reynolds versus Sims, the U.S. Supreme Court determined that the general basis of apportionment should be one person, one vote. And this rule generally means that electoral districts must be equal in population as much as possible. Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act blocks district lines that deny minority voters an equal opportunity to participate in the political process and to elect representatives of their own choice. There's also the 14th Amendment in the Constitution to ensure equal protection. There are also state laws. And for state laws, we have Public Act 463 of 1996, which established the guidelines for the Michigan legislature and the governor to draw the maps for the Michigan Senate and the House, and to allow the Supreme Court to review the map under certain circumstances. Another major act is Public Act 221 of 1999, an act to stipulate that the Michigan legislature and governor can draw the maps for Congress. So those two are very important. The Michigan Constitution, when it was passed in 1963, some of you might want to look up this language, Article 4, Section 2 through 6, established an 8-member commission at that time. It had 4 members from each party, and it was an equal number, so you can imagine some of the problems that resulted. As a result of neither party being able to come up with enough votes in that commission, the Supreme Court had to make the decision on the commission plans in 1964 and in 1972. So the outcome of those decisions from that commission that's still in the Constitution was determined by the Michigan Supreme Court because the equal number could not come to a decision. One of the interesting things about that, it was overturned later because of the commission, because parts of that section could not be separated when there was a lawsuit as the result of that federal case, Reynolds versus Sims. And that was a state court ruling in 1982. Oversight in Michigan. We have the governor can veto the plans that come to him for either the Michigan congressional delegation or the legislative districts, and the state Supreme Court can review the plans if requested by any elector. So that's the checks and balances there. What are the current problems with the current system? Partisan politicians manipulate elections to keep themselves and their party in power. Nolan Finley on August 27th in the Detroit News wrote, "The partisan nature of redistricting leaves the state with districts drawn to consolidate political power rather than to group together citizens with common interests." Some of you probably heard about this, but Elbridge Gerry was the Massachusetts governor in 1810 to 1811. And he signed into a law a map for the Massachusetts Senate. Because the district, you can see it kind of dark on the left-hand side, looks like a salamander, the name was called gerrymandering for what he had done with this map. It's gerrymandering now means redrawing lines to get a particular result. This is another example of gerrymandering, and the red and blue mean nothing. They're just colors. But if you look at 50 people and 60% are blue, and this first one over here on the left, and 40% are red, and you have to divide them into 5 districts, there are many ways you can do that. You can see for perfect representation, that would be equal, you could go 3 blue, 2 red, just by drawing lines straight down. You can do compact but unfair by going across, and you end up with 5 blue districts, 0 for the red. Or you can be very creative and draw some of these that look like our state districts, and you could end up with 2 blue districts and 3 red. In spite of the numbers, 40% red. So you can see quite a few examples of this if you want more information about how gerrymandering works. On the web, there's some good YouTube videos too. Probably the most egregious example right now is the congressional district number 7 in Pennsylvania. You can see how creative that gerrymandering was to get, and I have no idea which party benefited from that, but anyway, that's an example. It's kind of interesting when we look at the history here in Michigan. In 1998, we had a total votes for percentage votes for Congress. 48% were Republican, 49% were Democrat. But then when you look at the seats, because at this time the process, as you can tell, was controlled by the Democrats, they were able to come up with 6 seats for the Republicans, 37%, and 10 seats for the Democrats, or 63%. Right now, there are 435 congressional districts. We have 14 in Michigan, each with a population of about 710,000. They're elected for a 2-year term, as you know. Michigan has voted a majority of time recently for Democrats since 1992 at the presidential level. That's not true when you look at the governor's race statewide. We've been mixed. We have a Republican now for that'll be 8 years. Jennifer Granholm is a Democrat for 8 years before that, and before that, John Engler for 12 years. So we're a mixed state when you look at the percentages there. So when you look at today's vote, or 2012's vote for Congress, this time the Republicans had 46% of the total, and the Democrats had 51%. However, the Republicans are in control, and they got 9 seats for 64%, and 5 seats for the Democrats, representing 36%, by the way they drew the maps. This is just another way of looking at it. For fair representation in Congress, we would have 6 Republicans and 8 Democrats based on the vote. Actually, we have 9 Republicans, 5 Democrats. And some of you may be noticing that right now we have 14 congressional members. And as you know, everything's based on the census from 2010. And we've had quite a history of up and down on our up and now going down on congressional districts. In 1902, we had 12. Our highest was in 1972 when we had 19. We're now down to 14 because other states are gaining and Michigan is either staying the same or losing. This shows you a map, and I know you can't see it, but you can at least see your area really well. Showing that this is the map that was drawn in 1998, which resulted in more seats for the Democrats. At that time, the first district had Bart Stupak, who was a Democrat. Second district, which is the kind of bluish or green, Peter Hoekstra, a Republican. Third district, Vern Ehlers, a Republican. And the fourth district, David Camp, a Republican. This is what it looks like now. You can see how it's switched. And in order, the switch meant that now the first district is Republican with Dan Vinnicek. Second district, Bill Azinga, a Republican. Third district, Republican Justin Amish. And fourth district, John Molinar.
That's not right.
That's not right.
That's not now.
Oh,
That preceded
That's up to 20.
the current
That should
district.
be now.
no, it is not right.
No, Leland's part of,
Counties
this must be the early
is
one.
in District
Okay, all
1.
right, I'll get that fixed. That's the first time I've used that, so. It says 20, you're sure?
We have
Dave Camp, we were
Okay, 'cause, one of the handy guides, and I don't have, that you should really get from your state rep or state senator, has all the maps in here. So because of that error, I'm just gonna pass this one around, but I trust you all to know. I'm sorry about that, but it does have the
The
map.
East Coast moved north a little bit and came across and got Grand Traverse and Leland all.
Okay, I'll get the correct map. Then what happened in the Senate in 2012, we had the last election for the Michigan Senate. Of the votes cast, Republicans got 55%. This is for the state Senate. 45% for the Democrats. But look at the difference in seats. Out of 38 seats in the Senate, the seats won were 26 for Republicans. They have 68%, 12 for the Democrats, 32%. And you can't begin to see that map, but that's where the districts are. And then in the House, the vote was 46% Republicans, 53% Democrat. The majority went to the Republicans, 59 for 54%, 51 for 46%. So you can see what a difference it makes on who's drawing the lines. The result is the vast majority of districts aren't competitive. This impacts policies as well as the elections. The party in power meets behind closed doors and draws voting maps that directly benefits itself. The League and a number of organizations participated in hearings on the maps in 2011. And at that time, we had a Republican governor, a state house that had a Republican majority, a state Senate with a Republican majority, and a Supreme Court with 4 of the 7 members nominated by Republicans. The Senate Redistricting Committee had 6 members that were Republican, 3 Democrats where the bills went. And the House Redistricting and Elections Committee had 6 Republicans and 3 Democrats. We attended all of the hearings that were held. We testified at many of the hearings about the importance of having open hearings, transparencies, input on drawing the maps. The result was the bills came in on one day, and essentially we never saw, the bills weren't printed with the maps in it. They were passed, they were sent to the other house, and they were sent to the governor, and all done in just a few weeks without much of an open hearing process at all. So that's one of the problems when everything is controlled. That's putting the fox in charge of the hen house, and we believe it's a conflict of interest. Redistricting also impacts public policy. For example, the priorities for Michigan budgets have changed during the last 10 years, from 2003 to 2013. And if you look at education funding, this comes from the House Fiscal Agency, and this is from 2003 to 2013. It could be the result of not having enough funds to distribute. It could be the result of priorities in the budget. But the bottom line is, we've actually gone down when you adjust for inflation. From 1129 to 898, this is during a period of both Democrats and Republicans. And when you look at transportation funding, some of you know we did about, well, I'm forgetting, I think it was around 30 presentations during the May ballot proposal on transportation funding. And we heard all over the state how people wanted funding dealt with, but they did not like that proposal, which ended up being a Christmas tree proposal in order to get all the votes in their coalition that they needed to get it passed in the House and the Senate and to the governor. And the result is we still don't have money for transportation, in spite of the public's wanting more money to be spent on transportation. How the lines are drawn also impacts policy issues. And this is more complex than we have time to discuss, but you can think about it for yourself. What are the positions of the different political parties on these issues? And how does that impact what they decide? For example, how will the legislature deal with the regulation of solar energy? How will the legislature decide to fund health care? How will they decide what to pass regarding voting regulations? How will they deal with equal pay for equal work? Some of these are decided by parties with their party position. So elections and redistricting have consequences on the policies and the budgets that are adopted. That's why redistricting matters. If you care about representation and you care about political power, then you care about redistricting, according to the Brennan Center. So the solution is to change the rules so that the process is fair, transparent, and impartial. The League's been in existence for 95 years. We stand for the protection and equality of all voters, and that's why this issue is very important to us. There are a range of options to look at. The legislature is the one we use here in Michigan, where a legislative committee creates a redistricting plan, submits it in the form of a bill to the full legislature, and then upon final approval is supported or vetoed by the governor. Another possibility is an advisory commission. Many states have advisory commissions that draft a plan, but it's subject then to the legislative approval. And the last one that we're talking about is the independent commission, where citizens draw the map with no approval from the legislature required. And as you can see, 27 states do the first one, where it's solely in the hands of the state legislature. We're one of those. So that's over half of the states. Hopefully you found where you came from. Maybe not on that list. 17 states have an advisory commission. We're using the advisory commission kind of broad because of the length of our presentations, but there are different kinds of advisory commissions. In Vermont and Maine, New York, and Rhode Island, there are 4 of them, the commissions draw the plans, but they are approved or they even can be changed by the legislature. There are backup commissions in 5 states if the legislature cannot agree: Connecticut, Texas, Illinois, Mississippi, and Oklahoma. Here it goes to the Supreme Court if the legislature can't agree. The backup commissions are another way. There's a politician commission. 7 states have those, and they're mostly legislators or elected officials that serve on those. They're Arkansas, Colorado, New Jersey, and Ohio for state districts, Missouri, Hawaii, and Pennsylvania. And then there's one left, and Iowa has a different system. They actually have a nonpartisan legislative staff that develop the maps, give it to the legislature for approval, and it has no identifying information on it. So the legislators have no idea if their district's been moved or not when they approve it. So that's unusual. 6 states have an independent commission. And it's interesting because saw an article today in the Detroit News accusing anything dealing with redistricting in Michigan to be a partisan issue. And when I looked at these 6 states, 4 are red states: Alaska, Arizona, Idaho, Montana are all red states. There's only 2 blue states, California and Washington. These have commissions that do not allow an elected official to serve on them. They're only for citizens to serve on. They have different ways of getting appointed, and the process varies in each of these states. We frankly got involved in this again recently because of the Arizona court case that we knew was going through the U.S. Supreme Court, because they had a commission there which has 5 members. But there had been a challenge that was saying that the Constitution required the legislature to do redistricting. So they took this case all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court, and in June they ruled that a commission could do it. So Arizona's had a lot of highlight because of that. California, the league's been involved in many of these initiatives getting passed. And the California one was worked on primarily by the League of Women Voters of California and Common Cause. It has 14 members. It's been in existence since 2008. They had 36,000 applicants that went to the state auditor who had to select down to 20 Democrats, 20 Republicans, and 20 neither, independents. The legislature can veto 8 of those, and they held 100 public hearings in 38 cities in 8 months, completely different than our process here. There were over 20,000 comments received by the California Commission. There were no private meetings. Everything was done in public.